Hi everyone. So welcome back. So today let's deep dive into the system design of a WhatsApp messaging system. So we are taking an example of WhatsApp, but this might be relevant for any messaging system. And before we understand overall the architecture or maybe high level design, first this video I want to focus on understanding the requirement. And understanding requirement is very crucial in system design interviews and any problem solving questions. So here first you need to deep dive and this will help you as a template to maybe for other system designs also, like how do you break a certain messaging system or a platform into different bucket so that you can first understand the program, the problem, then break down into certain requirement. I will talk about those requirement. And then once you gather all those requirement, the next part would be like creating an HLD or the architecture of that system. So let's begin. So when we are talking about the design WhatsApp system, so it's a messaging system. So what comes to our mind is first the functional requirement. So we need to first focus on the functional requirements. Let me see if I can zoom it in. Okay, I think this works well. So when we are talking about the functional requirement, so the first point that comes to us is the messaging. So first point is the, okay, there is a typo. Okay, so the first point is the messaging. So when we are talking about the messaging, what comes to our mind? So it is about your real-time text, your voice and video chat that we usually do, and along with some multimedia sharing, like you share your images, videos over to the. So this all comes into the messaging. The next point that comes up is the group chats. So when we are talking about the group chat, so if you notice there are some groups that you can create in WhatsApp and it support your group conversation with multiple participants. So the next point that comes up is the status updates. So now if you go to WhatsApp, there is another tab like updates. So where you can go and upload either your photo or maybe to video, and that will be shown in your update maybe for 24 hours. So the next point that comes is the end-to-end encryption. So if you see all the data that is available in WhatsApp and that is like communication between one-to-one user is encrypted from both the party. So WhatsApp is not going to read that message. So it is fully encrypted. So that is also one thing about the you're securing your privacy and security. So the next point that comes up is the voice calls. So from WhatsApp, we can go to the tab of call. We can make a voice call or a video call to any person. But for this, we are considering a voice call. And the last one would be like a file sharing. So if you want to send some person any kind of a file so that you can send it. So the file could be like a photo, any video, or it could be contact or any other thing that you can send. So these are the major functional requirement that we can say it does exist in the WhatsApp system. So now when we are talking about the functional requirement, uh, our next point would come, what about the non-functional requirements? So these are the two topics that we always need to understand in any of the requirement of the system design interview. One is the functional requirement and second is the non-functional requirement. So when we are talking about the non-functional requirement, these are the architectural pillars. So which are actually going to support your platform to scale up to a number, and that will also help in terms of like your system should not go down if the user base increases or other factors also. The first come is the scalability part. So maybe I can like this, scalability. So scalability talks about like handling an ever grown a user base with smooth performance. So it should not happen like whatever is the performance with the 100 user, that should not break or it should not change. Even the user grows up to maybe 1 million or more than that. The next part comes is the reliability. So reliability talks about your how much your system is reliable, and it also talks about your minimal downtime. So even if you see WhatsApp, it's a 24 cross 7 available platform. So there should not be any downtime. If there is a downtime, you have seen in the past also, like becomes a bottleneck for users and they will not be able to communicate or rely on this particular platform. So that is the reliability. The next aspect is the security. As we also talked about in the functional requirement, security is all about protecting user data because it's a messaging platform. So it has to be, data has to be encrypted and it has to be channelized over a secure protocol. The next part would be a low latency. So when you are sending a message from one person to another person, so it should be delivered in a very short amount of time. So your latency of sending that message would be very less so that you can feel that real time communication. It does not look good like if you send a message, it will receive maybe after a minute or something. So that does not look like a real time communication. So your latency should be very low so that you can feel that real time communication. The next point that comes up is the cross platforms. So when we are talking about cross platform, so it's like seamless operation across various devices and platforms. So it means it should be compatible with other platform also. So like it is running on the Android also, it is running on the iOS platform also. So this is mainly about the cross platform. And the next is the data storage. So when we are talking about the data storage, it means that it should be able to manage the massive amount of multimedia. If you see this WhatsApp is having a very big user base and then the data that send over the platform is a very huge. So your data storage should be your key so that it should be able to manage and when it is required, it should be able to retrieve that data also for that particular user for that particular time. So these are the mainly functional requirement and the non-functional requirement. Now let's move ahead and maybe let's talk about the next important thing, that is your traffic estimations. So the our next key point that comes up after functional and non-functional requirement is like we need to estimate the traffic. So whenever we are designing a system, we need to benchmark some of the data saying that how much traffic we are estimating on this particular platform at this point of time so that we can consider all the design practices and we can also talk about how much data or maybe scalability or other factor do we require. So when we talk about the traffic estimation, so take an example of first is a user base. So now currently if you see WhatsApp has over 2 billion users. So now we are calling about 2 billion. So 2 billions user globally. And now if you are considering a user, so then we need to consider an active user base also. So suppose at one particular time, how many users are active? So let's say we are considering a ratio of 1 is to 4. So like out of 2 billion, maybe or out of 4, every one user is active. So if we do the math over here, so 2 billion, if we divide by 4, that will comes out as a 500 million. So if you get this math and the next point that so now our active user base comes as a 500 million. So now when we talk about the message volume, okay, so in terms of message volume when we are talking, so WhatsApp processes more than 1.5 billion. It is processing a 1.5 billion messages per day. Okay, so this is the volume that WhatsApp is having over these messages. And why, how we get with this number? So when we talk about the active user base, that is your 500 million. So if you consider that 500 million, and suppose on an average, one user sends 30 messages per day. Okay. So this is your active user base. And then what we are saying, that one user will send 30 messages per day. So then how much it comes out is count out a year 5.5 billion messages. So this is how we are, and here we are considering average 30 messages per user per day. So this is our assumption. Okay. So the next point that comes up is on our list is the media sharing. So let's talk about the media sharing, like your photos or videos, whatever you want are sending. So in terms like we WhatsApp again sharing a millions of images, videos and document, and that also shared are daily. So here also we can do some rough math saying that suppose we have a 500 million users, and maybe they are sharing maybe 10 like 10 share media per day. So then this roughly comes up as a zero point 0.5 billion media per day. Okay, so these are all the maths that we have done on the traffic estimations. Now let's move to another next component, which is again a critical one. Okay, so which talks about the storage estimations. So now when we predicted the traffic estimation of the user base, so the next part comes, how do we estimate our storage? How much storage is required for WhatsApp? Okay, so here let's talk about the message volume. So when we are talking about the message volume, so if you consider over here, we are already calculated our message volume is 1.5 billion per day again. Okay, and then so total storage would be, so now if we are considering this 1.5 billion, and see in storage we are assuming like every message is going to take you maybe a 50 KB a space. So your total data that is required is your 75 petabytes. Okay, so again what we are assuming, on average your each message size is 50 KB. So this is our assumption, and this comes as a 75 petabyte over here. Now when we talk about the undelivered messages, so now all the messages might not get delivered to the user party wherever it is required. So we need to talk about the undelivered message. Now here again, let's say our ratio is 1 is to 10 of those messages. So like out of 10 messages, one message is undelivered. So it does not receive to that. So in that case, what will happen? So your and what we are going to do, we are going to store only undelivered messages. We are not going to store the delivered messages because they have already been sent. So if we are talking about the undelivered messages, so what we can do, so and say these undelivered messages we are going to store for like 30 days, so that when user back comes online again, we can send that data to that third party. Okay, so like say maybe our assumption is like for 30 days we want to store undelivered messages. Okay, so in that case, what would happen when we are talking about the storage of undelivered message? So let's talk about the storage of undelivered messages. So this comes about your total storage. So what is your total storage? And for one day is equal to 75 petabyte. Okay. Now you need to divide this by 10, because if you see earlier, we have talked about our undelivered messages are 1 is to 10. So this roughly comes as a 7.5 petabyte. Okay. And now when we are talking about the, so this actually is your storage, and then we are talking about the storage of undelivered messages. So in 30 days, so you need to actually multiply this 7.5 petabyte into 30. So, and this roughly comes as a 225 petabyte. So this is your total storage that you required, considering the undelivered messages also along with your delivered messages. So this is how we do estimate our storage. So what we have done till now? So we have talked about the functional requirement, we have talked about the non-functional requirement, we have talked about the traffic estimation also, and we have talked about the storage estimation, how much storage is required. So now comes to the next point. Okay, so now let's talk about the API services. So when we are done with this kind of a estimation, we need to think about how many services or maybe microservices or API services do we require to expose this kind of a data which can be consumed our web interface or maybe our mobile app application, so that this can work in parallel. So when we are talking about the user services, so first that comes as a, so first API service comes as a user authentication. So this service actually talk about a API endpoint for user registration. Suppose how do you register with your mobile number, and then it's talk about your login mobile number, and it also talked about your user profile management. Suppose if you want to change your name, some icon, you want to put some status message, all that is responsible for user. Now the next point comes is a data retrieval. So when we are talking about this service, so it is responsible to retrieve data from databases, and it also include like filtering, sorting and searching capability. So if you are going to the chat and you are searching for one person, so you want to retrieve all the chat, or suppose you have some text and you are looking for that text in across all the chat messages. So this kind of a service is going to help you in the data retrieval process. Next comes is your data creation and update. So this talks about your APIs to create your data, update and delete those data records. So you have created those data, how it goes and put it into the database. So it's simply a CRUD operation that is required on the data. The next part comes is a file upload and download functionality API. So it talks about like we are talking about pictures and maybe your videos. So the functionality is required to upload your videos to the maybe any of the file storage service like Amazon S3 or maybe Blob storage, and then from there you can also download those files and give it back to the user when it is required. So this talks about your file upload and the next talk about your search. So when we are conducting full text or maybe filter searches in again a data, so then this is required. So it is a text-based search, so that it you can implement some fuzzy search also depending upon what kind of a data, and then it can also give you some suggestion also what all the searches you required. And the next would be our notifications. So notification is definitely a service that is required to push notifications, email or other form of communication to the user. So like if any message comes up, so you see alert comes up or notification comes up that talks about okay, something has received in your particular messaging system. Okay, so this is what we have discussed is about the function requirement, non-functional requirement, traffic estimation, storage estimation, and API services. So this is how you should break any of your system design problem, and it is relevant for all type of system design interviews. And it is right now we discussed about the WhatsApp, but it is relevant for the Instagram also, This is relevant maybe for Facebook or other type of a platform or like a Netflix. But only thing is that varies maybe your API interfaces or your be traffic estimation, storage estimation, those will change and your functional requirement also change. But non-functional requirement usually remain kind of a same, but it also depend upon what kind of a platform you are using. So this is all for this video. For HLD or architecture, I will cover in next video. So do let me know how do you see this approach, and if you have any question, just put that into the comment section, and I'll see you in next video. Thank you.